Now that every single master has their own block list, we can effectively create roles for every single Slayer master in this game. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to break down every single Slayer master and the different ways you can utilize them and set up their block lists. I do want to mention that everybody's journey is a little bit different. So there's going to be cases where some of these lists are going to look a little bit different because maybe you've completed something or not completed something. For some of the more subjective lists, I tried to give multiple options for blocks, so hopefully that solves that. Some of the other lists are a little bit more set in stone because it's a very specific strategy. So hopefully you notice that, and if there's ever anything where you're like, nah, I don't want to block that, I'd rather block this instead, go ahead and do it ultimately if that works for your account and lets you enjoy the game the most. So let's start off with Turael and Aya. This is your skipper, right? Ubiquitously known as the skipper. So what you'll want to block here are lizards, bears, dogs, skeletons, wolves, and then choose two between bats, Calphites, banshees, monkeys, and dwarves. Calphites is an interesting one. If you don't have Calphites blocked on the master that you're focusing on, you'll definitely want to block it here because you don't want to get a Calphite task from your main master and then not be able to skip it because he assigns it. Turael assigns them. So you can either block them here or block them on the other master. The benefit of blocking them on the other master is that you can still get Calphite tasks for skip tasks, which are very, very quick. Right? So that's something to think about, but then the benefit of blocking them here is that you don't have to block them on the other masters necessarily. So you'll have to balance that out. Moving on to Mazchna or Maz. Maz is known as now, I would say, the point booster. Turael can definitely be used for point boosting as well, but Maz is actually a lot better. I did a whole video on this, and you can combine the two overall when boosting, but generally what you want to block here are Mogres, Shades, Ice Warriors, and Killer Watts. And then for your remaining slots, there's a lot of leeway here. You're just going to choose 3 here, either Catabel Pawns, Cockatrice, Skeletons, Wallbeasts, or Dogs. If you're not using a cannon, then you can maybe keep like Wallbeasts unblocked or Catabel Pawns. You'll need to test those out to see, but if you are using a cannon, those are decent blocks. For the Wilderness, Krystilia, if you want to focus on revs or boss tasks, spiders, bears, and skeletons, this list will work for both of those cases to give you the max chance. Greater Demons, Black Demons, Fire Giants, Hellhounds, Ice Warriors, Magic Axes, and then for the last slot, any of the 6-weight ones here, Mammoths, Ice Giants, Earth Warriors, or Lesser Demons. Now, if you're doing Krystilia as well to do more XP, and you have like more Wildy Slayer unlocks, so you're doing more like barraging and cannoning, then you'll want to sub out the tasks like Greater Demons and Black Demons that you can cannon for one of the options here below instead. Duradel is probably the best master in the game, so we're going to break down 3 different lists that you can do with Duradel. The first one I'm going to talk about is best XP and leveling. Now, obviously, you want to keep some of the ones I'm going to mention unblocked until you're done with them. A lot of Duradel's masters you're going to have a use for at some point, and then you're going to block when you're done, or you're going to block it before, and then when you get the level, you're going to unblock it. So Metal Dragons is just great because it's very heavily weighted, so that's a good block. Hellhounds, that's our first example of like you're going to either keep it unblocked or unblock it when you're doing Serb. Cave Kraken, same thing. Black Demons, Greater Demons. Greater Demons is arguable. It's actually decent XP. It's just very slow, which means that you're getting less potential barrage tasks because you're spending a lot of time at Greaters. So you'll have to factor that in. Definitely if you're going for Synapse though, you'll probably keep these unblocked at least until you're done those. Now, if you're Turael skipping for your last slots, I would recommend Black Dragons and Dark Beasts. If you're not Turael skipping, you can really choose any of the 2 here. Drakes, worms, spiritual creatures, even gargoyles. I know gargoyles are decent money, but they can be slow XP, and this was focused on XP, of course. There might be a few others you can go to if you look at his list, but generally, this should get you sorted and get you really good XP over time. The second Duradel list to share is the heart farming list. This is for the optimal chance of getting an imbued heart late game. I did a whole video on this you can watch, and you can see how you can get a heart in under 80 hours. What you'll want to block for sure is Metal Dragons, Dark Beasts, Hellhounds, Calphites, Abyssal Demons, and then there's 2 remaining slots that can be anything here because they're all the same weight: Cave Kraken, Graders, Black Dragons, Dagonoths, or Necreals. It doesn't matter because we're going to be Turael skipping when we're doing the heart farm because we're only going for 2 tasks anyways. A couple of notes here. Calphites, the reason why they're blocked here is because I want to keep them unblocked on Turael, because if I'm specifically going for heart, getting them from Turael as a skip is a very quick skip versus some of the other Turael tasks I can get. The other thing here is I have Abyssal Demons blocked, which some people, if you're going for heart late game, you might keep it unblocked if you still need like prayer XP or you like to like AFK them. But for the sake of max efficiency, it makes sense to block them since Araxites and Smokes are actually better overall. And the last type of Duradel list you can set up that's going to be popular for endgame players is your pet farming list. This includes all the Slayer pets and potentially the other type of boss pets you can get through Slayer. What you'll want to block is Metal Dragons, Dark Beasts, Necreals, Black Dragons. And then for the last 3 slots, you're going to either block Calphites, Greater Demons, and Dagonoths if you don't consider those like boss pets, since you can do KQ, Krill, and DKs off task as well. But if you are going to do them through Slayer anyways, instead you would block Worms, Drakes, and Black Demons. So it's up to you in terms of what you want to do there. A couple of notes here. Obviously, your list might look different if you've gotten some pets already. So if you got like Serb Pet, that's a great block because it's a very high weight. So you'll want to sub that in and remove a lower weight one like Black Demons, for example. That's one point. And then the other point is, you know, you might be using Duradel for other things. Don't worry. Later in the video, you'll see how other Slayer Masters can be used to get your pets as well. Konar is primarily used as a Hydra Master. There is another use case we'll talk about as well, but let's focus on the Hydra block list first. We want to maximize our chance at getting Hydra. So Metal Dragons, Drakes, Worms, Black Demons, Fire Giants, Calphites, and Abbey Demons are all blocked. What I also like about this list is Kraken is unblocked as well by default, and it's still got the max chance to get a Hydra task. This then means that Konar has the best chance to get Kraken as well. So in some ways, Konar becomes a Hydra and Kraken master just by default, and you can get Brimmy keys as well from Kraken, which is a nice bonus. Now, if you're done with Kraken and maybe there's a chance that you might do Sire while farming, you know, for Hydra, you could swap those 2 out on your block list, or swap out Calphites potentially if you have those blocked on Turael. So there's a little bit of switching you could do with those 3 tasks, so it'll depend on your account. But definitely by default, Hydra and Kraken are very good on Konar. The second list I want to share for Konar is focused on speed of getting Brimstone keys and speed of point boosting. They're very similar, if not the same lists, so we're going to combine them together. The first block here I have is Metal Dragons once again. Now these can be decent for keys and decent speed as well. So this one you might not block, but what I don't like about them is that you can't fully pick the type of Metal Dragon you want to do because you're limited by the location you get sent to. So it doesn't mean that you'll be able to do Myth and Ruined Dragons all the time. You might have to do Bronze Dragons or Iron Dragons. So that can make the task a lot worse, plus they're very heavily weighted. So I think this one is subjective. I probably would still block them, but you can definitely experiment with them and block them if you don't like them. The rest of them are a little bit more standard: Drakes, Worms, Dagonoths, Black Demons, Hellhounds, and then for your last slot, you can do Calphites or Graders, and that, once again, might depend on what Turael has blocked. Nieve, I have 2 different lists. The first one is your best XP or your leveling before you start doing Duradel. You can block Metal Dragons, Black Demons, Fire Giants, Hellhounds, and honestly, the rest really depends on what your Slayer level is, and you'll probably move on to Duradel before you can even get certain tasks, so you don't necessarily have to waste points blocking here. But if you do continue long at Nieve, you can block things like Drakes, Greater Demons, Trolls, Spiritual Creatures as well. The second list for Nieve is specifically focused on Tazar tasks. So you're going to turn on hot stuff and you're going to block everything that's high weighted and skip specifically for that task. So you're blocking Metal Dragons, Abbey Demons, Black Demons, Bloodvelds, Fire Giants, Calphites, and Sukwas. Surprisingly, Chaeldar actually has a little bit of use now. Because you have different block lists, you can kind of use Chaeldar in a unique way. I have 2 different block lists you can set up. The first one, again, is a leveling one. This is when you're really low level Slayer. You can block stuff like Fire Giants, Trolls, Black Demons, but it's the same as what I mentioned with Nieve. You should be moving on to your next master, Nieve, after this. So I wouldn't waste so many points blocking up everything here, but if you are blocking a little bit more, spiritual creatures, jungle horrors, lesser demons are decent options. The second list I have for Chaeldar is kind of an interesting one. I think this is one that endgame players can use as a way to filter for certain boss tasks if they're going for certain items or certain pets, if you happen to have them blocked on other masters. Now, Duradel pet farming is definitely going to be better if you're going for pet farming, but let's say Duradel is doing other things right now, like it's set to XP or it's set to going for the heart. Chaeldar can maybe be a decent boss pet hunter if, you know, that's occupied and also Nieve is occupied with maybe Tazar tasks. So what you can block here is Fire Giants, Kurasks, Spiritual Creatures, Trolls, Necrials, Custodian Stalkers, and then really you can choose any of the ones here: Black Demons, Cave Horrors, Jungle Horrors, Jellies, and Turos, because they're all the same weight. If for whatever reason you want to keep stuff like Custodian Stalkers or Necrials unblocked, you can sub out those 2 with the options I just mentioned. This is mostly assuming Turael skipping. So if you're not Turael skipping, obviously you don't want those blocked and you want to block one of these other ones. But this makes it so that you're looking at Chaeldar's top tasks you can get, and basically like the top 6 are all like Slayer bosses. So, and you know, other various bosses. It's kind of nice in that sense. So I found this one pretty interesting. What can you do with Vannaka? Nothing. Those are all the Slayer Masters and block lists I wanted to bring up. Definitely not an exhaustive list. I'm sure every list is going to look a little bit different with little differences. Everybody's journey is different, as I mentioned before. And also, like, if you set up Duradel one way and then set up Konar another way, it might influence what you do with the remaining masters. Or maybe you don't even use the other masters. But I love this change overall, and the fact that I might be able to jump over to another master for a specific task instead of unblocking it on Duradel. That feels good in my opinion. Please let me know if you have any comments below, if there's any remaining questions. I also have the video on farming for the imbued heart and another video on point boosting you can check out. This has concluded my 3-part Slayer series for the recent updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.